Hello everyone, welcome to the first part in my San Andreas MDvMM guide. I personally picked up this category again quite recently, and a couple of other runners such as Forlux, Guy, Fabrizis, and a few others that I can't think of off the top of my head, have also started picking it up again due to some new discoveries, and I figured I would make a kind of tutorial for SA runners who are already familiar with the game in order to actually get into this category, because there isn't a lot of documentation besides just runners talking to each other and, you know, figuring out strats and stuff. But I would say this category is definitely like at the top of the complicated scale compared to even for most San Andreas runners. I imagine they would struggle to figure out exactly what's going on purely based off just watching the video. So I'll do my best to explain what's going on. This won't be a full San Andreas tutorial because, as I mentioned, like I'm not qualified to teach you how to speedrun San Andreas yet. I'm definitely not good enough at the game. So if you're a complete new player to San Andreas and you want to get into this tutorial, I definitely recommend watching KZFru's guides on the fundamentals of running the game first. That'll explain how to set up the game and, you know, how to dupe and everything like that, because this run does have a lot of duping. So while Big Smoke is going on, I guess I'll explain a bit more about the category. So MDvMM stands for Mission Duplication via Memory Manipulation, and essentially the idea of the category is that in San Andreas, we know that you can only dupe twice, practically, in runs, right? Like, I think there was some kind of T-Bone Mendez ×5 setup that was tried before, but it never made it into RTA attempts at the time of recording this. But what instead we use the on-mission changer, which I'll leave a download link to in the description if you're not familiar with it. That will basically allow us to mass dupe missions as much as we like and skip good chunks of the game. And that opens the door, because we can dupe things multiple times, it opens the door for a bunch of really cool strats, and it also skips a lot of the boring missions. So it's a really good category for people who don't want to spend, you know, like 4 or 5 hours doing San Andreas runs, and also those people who don't like missions such as Just Business, you know, GT skip. What else do we skip that's really, really boring? Don Quixote is a big one that was done recently. Hijack, that's a kind of shit mission when you dupe it. But yeah, so the idea is that we're gonna skip as much as is possible, but at the same time that adds a bunch of extra difficulty to the run, because of, you know, trying not to crash the game and softlock yourself and such. So the first thing that's different, if you're used to any percent or anything like that, is you want to make sure that you save 3 times. Not because you're a beginner and you need to give yourself extra 6 minutes for the life of each cycle, but it is actually really important to save your game 3 times here, because obviously the LS route is going to be way different to what you'd expect. In an 80% run, as you can see on Forlux's splits on the right hand side, a good time for LS is like sub 40 minutes. And I think this is a 40 flat. But, you know, as time goes on and people get more and more confident with this run, then sub 40s will definitely become more commonplace for top tier runners like Forlux. So yeah, the route will be way different, and for that reason we need to set up time in a very specific way. So I would recommend, one of the first things that you should do is make sure that your F6 key is bound to something that is comfortable to press. Because F6 for me, like personally, isn't exactly comfortable to press while I'm playing, because it's like in the middle of my keyboard. So I bind it to one of my extra mouse buttons. That makes it a lot easier. Also, make sure to buy a good haircut. Jerry curl, you know, cornrows. Can you even get cornrows there? I don't remember. Jerry curl, high fade, you know, the typical high sex appeal things. Because we will be doing Jizzy skip in this later on. But aside from that, this drive back is, you know, a standard, nothing particularly to it. But then you'll see the first clever use of kind of phone call routing in this. Because as you can imagine, since we can manipulate the on-mission variable at will, then you can use it to take phone calls during missions and cutscenes as well, especially. Because if you take them during cutscenes, then it skips the dialogue. So as you can see, Forlux has gone on mission 0. He answers the call, and you can actually click to, you know, cancel the, instead of like taking the call, you can just punch Ryder instead. But the idea is that you take the first sweet call to skip Ryder's dialogue and get that call out of the way. So then immediately you go into the first dupe of the game, which is one that you likely haven't seen before, and it's tagging up turf ×3. So that is going to skip, once you beat the mission, it will skip cleaning the hood, and it will skip drive-through as well. So what you want to do is you can dupe this just straight up 3 times in the cutscene, like walk into the cutscene and, you know, dupe like that. But it's much more safe to push this car out of the way, because it'll spawn 3 of the Greenwoods, and they can flip over, which is obviously really bad. So instead, the best way, as you can see what Forlux does here, is he does one instance, and then dupes it afterwards. It starts 2 more instances. And then there's much less chance of the car that you need to flip, flipping over. So only one of these cars will be the right one, and you'll know if it's the right one because you'll have this line that says drive with Sweet to Idlewood. Because obviously the other ones are just like leftovers from the duping. They don't actually progress the mission. So you need to find out which car is the right one. Usually Sweet will be sat inside the correct one, but it is possible that he can be, you know, several Sweets can be sat in several cars. So just make sure to look for this line. That's the most important part. And then we can speed off. And this mission is pretty much as normal. You'll notice that when you complete the tags, you'll get like 2 out of 100 and stuff like that as extra. You don't have to worry about that. That's just something that happens. And you'll also notice that you'll see very quickly that, well, something also to mention is that his dialogue is tripled, which makes it really loud. So, you know, be ready for that. But also you'll see that the green markers for the tags are going to remain on the screen, and that will become a problem later. But as you also saw, he went on mission 0 there in order to hold a phone call, because another easy way to skip dialogue is to simply let go of a call if you're in a cutscene. So you can hold a call, and for certain dialogue, as you see there, you can let go of the call, and it'll immediately skip the dialogue like that. And it will also give you control in the cutscene, so you can run a bit quicker. It's minor time saves, but they're worth mentioning. So this is all very standard. Nightstick, jump up and jump down again.
Carl, quick, get in!
And you can also do the same thing there to gain control in that cutscene. Save like 1 or 2 seconds if you're really sweaty. So then the ending is exactly the same. You can use the short replay in order to skip the animation inside the cutscene. And then you'll see that as soon as we complete this mission, and do some more dialogue skips. And you can shoot the car. That's actually smart. I've never seen that before. Shoot the car for a pistol skill. Then you can be in the marker, and now you start 9s and AKs rather than cleaning the hood. So there's the first skip.
What happened to the family? Where the love at? Shit happened.
So since 9s and AKs is like, it's, you know, there isn't really too much to optimize. You're just kind of shooting bottles and chilling. There are a couple of things that you can do to do some dialogue line skips, and you can also take the Officer Hernandez call during it, since, you know, you're not really doing anything else. So you'll see that in a second. So there's another dialogue skip there, just by manipulating your mission variable. If you look at the bottom left of the screen, if you're not quite following like when to flip the on mission variable, you can see that you can see when he's flicking the variable on and off. Might make it a bit easier. So you see he's taking the Hernandez call there. You can take it during many lines that are quite long. You can take it during the shit I'm the best there ever was. And you can take it during this one as well, because this Special Agent Big Smoke line is also quite long. And then you can just shoot Emmett and Smoke for some more pistol skill. Not really doing anything else too interesting. And then just driving back. We're gonna get another phone call out of the way here. As soon as you go into like the final cutscene where he's like, you know, thanks CJ, later Smoke. Then you kind of take a phone call where Sweet talks about getting some greens. You can actually take the gym call during that, as you'll see here. So you answer the phone, and then you'll get teleported to the gym, and you can actually grab a car here before you get teleported back. Or if you're like Forlux and you win the lottery, you can get a cop bike, which is even better. It's like, that's like the best possible scenario. So then you get teleported back to Smoke's house, and then you have a free car that you can just use. Or a bike, of course. So don't spin around here, because you actually want to go back to Grove Street. As soon as you hop in, and then hop out, mission done. And then you want to head straight to Drive-By. Now, it's worth noting that you will want 2 bikes in your garage. So as you can see, Forlux gets 2 now, which is nice. You know, that usually won't happen in a run. But even if you have 0 by this point, don't worry about it. Because if you're familiar with getting a bike on Sweet's Girl, then you can actually get 2 by just doing the same thing back to back. Like once you store the first bike, you can just hold your camera backwards again and another policeman will spawn with a bike. And you can put one in the garage, which you'll use for Green Saber. And then use one for Sweet's Girl as well. So, I didn't actually know this until quite recently, but you can skip 2 lines at the end of this mission's dialogue by making sure that you play one of the quick replays in both of the markers. So that one just there, and then in the final marker as well.
What you waiting for, CJ? Find us some more ballers so we can cap them. Speed up a little, we sitting. Smash on it, Carl, smash. Rollers on our case, CJ.
It is actually possible to dupe Drive-By, which would allow us to skip the next dupe. But unfortunately, if you dupe Drive-By too much, then the gangsters kind of, obviously they'll spawn a lot of them. And they get stuck within each other, and then you can't kill them, so you can't actually progress. But if anyone wants to test out Drive-By ×5, you could actually skip Sweet's Girl. But instead we do Drive-By once, and then Sweet's Girl ×4. So, it's important to remember to get your wanted level back, as is standard. Since you likely don't have a gun, what you can do is you can kind of see them, but if you see here, if you don't have a gun by this point, which is quite common, you can hit these people here that are just stood browsing. Forlux gets lucky with the cop car, but you can just run over the people. There's always 2 ped spawns there. You can just bonk one of them, and you'll get your wanted level back exactly the same way. So I do wonder if Forlux will go for a 3rd police bike and then keep the other 2 in his garage and use one for beat up later. So we'll have to see. So standard stuff, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. You can dupe all of these in the cutscene. But if you mess up and like CJ walks out of the cutscene, then don't worry about it. You can just walk back into the marker and start as many instances as you need. So he does keep the 2 bikes in the garage. I imagine he'll use one for RTLS. Again, if you don't get one, not a big deal. And then just lay waste to these guys. Of or sometimes they just dodge and completely troll you. It's a classic mission. And then if you can, if there's a police car nearby, which there usually will be because you have 2 stars, you can actually get inside. Nice pause buffer. What a beast. You can actually steal a police car here, get inside it, and then you'll have a faster drive back because the police car is faster than the Greenwood, obviously. And then on top of that, you'll also have a shotgun, which allows you to slide during Burning Desire and Reuniting the Families. Oh, actually, you already get one for Reuniting the Families, but it allows you to skip getting the one inside the cop car on Burning Desire. So it's like a double whammy of minor time saves that are worth mentioning.
I see you inside, baby. Man, this set trip.
So this is completely standard. It's time for Home Invasion ×3. So here, if you're a beginner, depending on the time of day, it might be a bit later. You can only start Home Invasion from 12 until 20, but Home Invasion sets your time to, I think, 22. Don't quote me on that. I'll check in a second once he starts it. So you don't have to worry about the time of day, but if you're too slow, just go in and save again until you can start Home Invasion, like go inside CJ's house. And then your time will be set anyway for Home Invasion. So everything is consistent no matter what your pace is. Just make sure that you have the right timing for Home Invasion. So right here, dupe it 3 times inside the cutscene. And then just kind of use A and D to wiggle yourself out there. You'll pop out pretty easily. So the other 2 vans don't really matter. Because they're just excess, so it doesn't matter if they blow up and Ryder dies. As long as the main Ryder, which is in the van with you now, and this van survives, then it's all good. So, something to mention about Home Invasion ×3, there's 2 things. 3 things, actually. The first is that you make triple the noise that you usually would, because you're running 3 instances. So, really any noise will trigger the war veteran, so you gotta be very careful. You can fail this mission very easily. Second thing is that there's 3 boxes, as you can see here, but only one of them, and I'll show you, only this one here will actually count towards the mission. So make sure that you pick up this one box here. Sometimes CJ can be a real arsehole and just not want to pick it up, but just, as I say, make sure that you don't make any noise, either by walking or just like tapping W or something. Like, don't slide, for God's sake. And just make sure that you grab this one crate here. And then you can run straight outside, doesn't matter about the noise anymore. Because one crate actually counts as 3 delivered. So you can just immediately get in the van.
Let's get up out of here.
And then drive back. You'll see Forlux has gone on mission 0. And that's because we want to take a phone call during this final dialogue, because it's quite long, so we can skip it.
One day, you gonna wish you hadn't pissed me off.
So, standard drive back. And then make sure you go on mission 0 at some point on the drive back. So then as soon as you walk out here, you can just mash tab, and or whatever your phone call taking key is. Skip the dialogue immediately. And then you'll also gain control in this final little section. It'll play 3 times, you'll see it, it's quite funny.
Okay, look, I'm tired.
And you can just mash F or enter vehicle in order to get inside of a car if there's one nearby.
Okay, look, I'm tired. I'll see you later.
Alright, home. Just think about what I said.
I'm not sure how new that little thing about stealing a car in the cutscene is. Forlux doesn't do it, so I assume it's quite new. Because I'm not sure exactly what time or what date he did this run and recorded this. But yeah, so if you want to be extra optimal there, you can just mash F as hard as you can and CJ will start walking towards a car. And if you get a decent one, you can steal it in the cutscene. So, Home Invasion ×3 skips the rest of Ryder's chain, basically. So, what is that? You skip Catalyst and robbing Uncle Sam, which is nice, because they're quite long missions. And then we go and do OG Loke. So that's the amazing part of this. Like, the fact that we've just completed robbing Uncle Sam, and then we go and do OG Loke. Like, the route is crazy.
OG low.
Oh yeah, he's a real.
And I didn't mention earlier, Sweet Skull times 4, let me see what that skips. That skips Caesar Viel Pando. It skips Los Sepulcros, I think. And
What's your plans?
what else would it skip?
Now you a free man,
Doberman?
dawg. Man, I ain't
Yeah,
free.
I think so.
Roll off and line me up with a
The Doberman skip is very important later on. I'll bring that up again during Badlands, because we actually don't unlock ammunition in this run. So any guns that you get, you cannot buy from ammunition, because ammunition unlocks once you complete Doberman, and we skip that mission. So keep that in mind. It's not as much of a big deal as I make it out to be, but it's worth mentioning.
Ooh, chase me!
So this mission is very standard. Make sure to save a PCJ replay, do the quick kill. There's nothing important to note here, so we'll just skip on through it. Mission is identical.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless there's a dialogue skip at the end, but I don't think there is.
I see you.
Yeah, no. So, now you want to make sure that you're in time for Lysa Beach, as is standard in any %. But as long as you saved, or are quick enough to not have to save, then you should have more than enough time here before 6 o'clock. So, this one you don't dupe inside of the cutscene. You want to make sure that you start it, then skip the cutscene, then run back and do it. So 2, 3, and 4. This is the first RNG heavy dupe in the game. Try and get a bike if you can. You know, very similar to any %. But yeah, this dupe is chaos, to put it lightly. So this skips Mad Dog's Rhymes, skips Management Issues, and it skips House Party. So it's a big skip, so it's definitely worth doing. But as you'll see in a second, it's a bit crazy. So you do the same homie skip that you would in Abe sent, but as you can see, everything is blowing up because there's so many cars. And is this similar to all the other dupes? Only one of these vans actually counts as, you know, towards the mission script, and will say, like, you know, take the sounds back to the garage or whatever. So the way you can check if you're not sure, because there's multiple, is it's the one that's like glued to the ground. So if you sprint into it and you can push it and it moves, then it's the wrong one. So make sure to push into them if you're unsure. And the one that you physically cannot move is the correct one. There'll only be one. But the issue is that, as you can see, some of the cars are flipped. The van can be in a very weird angle, and sometimes it's not possible to do the homie skip. And if you don't do the homie skip and you try and dance, the chances are your game will crash. So, yeah, this is one of the, as I say, luck-dependent dupes. But Forlock's got a nice van here. This is, you know, very standard. And then just do the homie skip as you would for your preferred method. Homie does not seem to be, he seems to be stuck. But there you go.
Hey, wait your ass here.
Come on, Forlock, you can do it, buddy. Before everything blows up. There we go. So yeah, as long as you can get in the van and do the homie skip, then you're good to go. Everything else is exactly as standard to drive back. After this mission, you very much want to get a bike, because we're going to use a little trick to do the lowrider race, the high-stakes lowrider mission, but without a lowrider. Instead, we're just going to use any vehicle we want. So obviously, like, a PCJ is ideal, because it's like, you know, the fastest land vehicle you can ideally get at this point in the game. So send a drive back, and then make sure when you're about to hit the garage, you play your PCJ replay, because you want a PCJ to spawn. Forlux doesn't. Maybe it doesn't matter, I'm not sure. But I would very much recommend playing the replay there. He plays it after, maybe that's better, I'm not entirely sure. A cop bike is winnable. Ideally you'd want a PCJ, but speaking of a PCJ, there it is. But yeah, as long as you get some kind of bike, you will still save an insane amount of time over the Voodoo. So now you want to head through here to the train tracks, take a left. And then just cut across where you do Los Desperados. Head towards the lowrider mission. And make sure to park your bike, like behind this lamppost somewhere, usually is quite safe. I've parked here before and my bike has despawned. So be very careful where you park it. The further back, the better. There you go. So I guess that lamppost is a good reference because Forlux does the same thing. You would want to take a call here for Burning Desire. I think that's optimal. But Forlux has a wanted level, so he can't. So yeah, if you get a wanted level like Forlux did because you get a cop bike, then don't worry too much about it. So start the mission as is normal, because you need a lowrider to start the mission. But then what you want to do is, in order to use this police bike as the lowrider, you go on mission 0, and you drive through the marker again. And you'll see that it will go from get back in the car to you need to be in a lowrider car, and the icon will be on Caesar. That now means that this vehicle that you just drove over the marker is your chosen one for the race. So now that means that you can use a bike in order to win the race, which is obviously very fast. So you can just make an absolute mockery of these guys. But the race itself is the same. Try not to fall off. And yeah, you can get like sub 110 here. Get a hot dog if you need it. And now you want to head towards Burning Desire. And we're almost at the end of LS. At this point. See, LS is extremely short in this category. You save like, almost half an hour off it. So you want to head down this curled road here and go all the way to the donut shop. If you didn't get a bike for whatever reason, then definitely try and get one now, as you would in any percent. Like, there's plenty of chance to get a bike. Cut through here, and then when you do get a bike, you can park it right next to the marker. You can also park it, my preferred place to park is just next to the wall. So like, here is also good. So you can take the call for Burning Desire now if you did have a wanted level, or you can take it earlier. It's completely up to you. Make sure to dupe this outside of the cutscene, again, like it's similar to Lysa Beach. And then this mission plays out exactly as normal. It's good to note that if you do somehow fail this mission, like for example, you get that really rare bug where Denise just dies as you walk in, like she just gets herself set on fire somehow, then unfortunately there's no way that I know in order to progress. It's, as far as I know, to be a forced reset. Because if you trigger this section with the burning building, and then fail the mission and then go back to it, once you save Denise the second time, then the door will be closed. So you will walk out, but she can't. She can't exit the building. And as far as I know, she is completely stuck in there. I've tried a couple of things to get her out, but maybe a more knowledgeable runner can help. But yeah, this door will be closed, and you won't be able to get her out. Nice random car just nailing him. But yeah, so aside from that, this mission plays out exactly as normal. Just throw the Molotovs in and get Denise out. So as you saw at the start of the mission, Forlux skipped the shotgun. If you didn't get the shotgun during Sweet's Girl, you can either get it in the cop car there, or you can do what Forlux is doing here, where you slide with the spray can, and then you minigun slide with the fire extinguisher. Which is where you switch to the weapon that you cannot crouch with later on.
Shit, the house is collapsing!
Give me a second,
So,
bro, don't-
getting out of here is as normal. Nothing else to it. As you can see, like, you do the mission, but it's... The actual mission works exactly the same as any percent. There's not two houses or anything like that. So, once you get her out, Forlux lost his bike because he accidentally set it on fire, but usually you can keep the bike. If not, take the Voodoo, drive her back, don't hit the lamppost. Yeah, goodbye, Denise. So then, you want to go to the hotel here and grab some grenades. Really convenient spawn. And then we're going to head to do Running Dog ×4. So Running Dog ×4 isn't a conventional dupe. It's actually a dupe and fail. So how it works is that you're going to start 4 instances of Running Dog. Then you're going to drive to the marker. The one where, like, just before you have to shoot the guy. But as soon as you do that, the mission's going to fail. And the reason for that is, because you have 4 instances running, you start that section, but then the mission fails because the guy, I think, doesn't spawn, I believe, or something like that. So the first instance fails, but then because the first instance fails, because the guy doesn't spawn, the other 3 instances think that the guy is dead, and the other 3 will pass at the same time. So those 3 instances passing means that you complete Running Dog, obviously, wrong side of the tracks, and Just Business in a second. So this dupe is unfortunately kind of another coin flip, but thankfully if you do fail this, like if Big Smoke's cars blow up, then you can just restart it with no real big time loss. So you want to make sure that you walk into the marker and dupe all 4 in the cutscene. Anything else will not do. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then his cars are obviously going to spawn on top of each other. There's a chance that they can get stuck inside of each other and flip or blow up or anything like that. And that will be a retry, unfortunately. But what you want to do is you want to find the one car that, you know, actually allows you to drive. So you'll see when you get in, it'll say drive Big Smoke to the meet. That means it's the correct car. That's the only one that matters. The other 3 can blow up. Doesn't make a difference. If you don't see this prompt when you get in the car, you're in the wrong one, and try the next one. But then this route is exactly as standard. You just simply drive to the marker, and as you'll see, as soon as you go, the mission will pass and then fail. And that's how you know that you've done it correctly. Which obviously may sound strange, failing a mission to pass it, but it's the way GTA is sometimes. So once you've completed that, we've got one more final thing to do. That was an epic bailout. I am a big fan of that. You'll want to save until 20 to 6 because you want to be there for the house party. But we're actually not going to do the house party mission. All we need to do is watch the cutscene. And you may think to yourself, but Ben, that's at the burger shop, right? No. In this route, you can actually watch the cutscene at Grove Street. So if you just go to 20 to 6 and then walk into where the marker should be, then you have the cutscene and then you can immediately start reuniting the families. Which is really awesome. I didn't know that was possible either.
Fuck you, Ryder.
Ryder, give CJ a break, man. He's practically turning Grove around by himself. And I was just telling a joke on the little nigga.
Everything you do is a joke, Ryder.
That ain't true.
Ryder, just chill the fuck out, man.
Remember, we're reuniting the family, so no bullshit. Stay cool. You know me.
So, this is going to be exactly the same as any %. All the way until the end, you know, get Hitman, do armor skip if you're a moron and you want to kill your run. It's up to you. But yeah, this will be all exactly the same. All the way up until the end of LS. So, I'll just leave this to run and I'll likely speed it up in production. Or actually, I can just skip through it now, I suppose. Rather than, you know, doing a time lapse, because you all know what you're doing at this point. So, blah 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 blah. Yeah, LSPD, don't care. Yep, don't care. Also, something quite important is once you get to this point, make sure that you don't take any phone calls. Make sure you cancel them all. Because if you take Sweet's phone call for Doberman, you'll actually move the marker for the Green Saber away from Grove Street, and then you'll softlock. So be very careful about that. But yep, take a call bike if you have one. You should have one at this point. Complete the mission as is completely standard, and we're on to Badlands. So this section, I'll be doing it in 3 parts. I'll be covering LS and Badlands in this part. Then the second one will be San Fierro and Desert, and then the final one will be LV and RTLS. So obviously, LS is the longest section, but then it also helps that Badlands is, unfortunately, you can't really optimize it much in this category. It's exactly the same as in Any MDvMM, besides a few extra little time saves that I'll point out here and there. So the first time save in Badlands is that you can do a death warp as soon as you photograph the corpse here. So you go up the mountain, photograph the corpse, and then you can go on mission 0 and just shoot the gas tank and blow yourself up. Because if you die on mission 0, as most of you will know, the mission continues, you don't fail it. And then you can just grab the ambulance and drive to the end of the mission. So that saves you coming off the mountain. So, as I mentioned before about ammunition skip, there is actually the second busted warp that you're used to in Any MDvMM. You actually won't be doing it in this category. Petrus recently showed me a video of a minor time save where you can do the busted warp, but the route is very tricky and not RTA viable. But obviously, it's quite a small time save anyway, so I won't mention it in too much detail. But essentially the idea is that you need a rifle for local liquor store, that's hard to say, snipes, and also the snipes on T-Bone Mendez. We'll be doing that later in San Fierro. So you need a rifle, but obviously you can't buy one during Small Town Bank. So there's a spawn just chilling on the route in Badlands before the second busted warp. But obviously if you busted warp, then you lose the gun, so that's not good. So instead, you'll be grabbing the rifle on the way there, and then you'll unfortunately have to skip the busted warp and drive back. But it is much faster overall, obviously, because Doberman is a very long mission, and skipping it saves a shitload of time.
Where's yours?
Petrus's idea was to do the busted warp anyway, and then during against all odds, drive to LS and pick up a spawn there. But as I mentioned, it's a very minor time save, and he said himself it's probably not even RTA viable to do anyway. So I'll save your eyes here. You want to go on mission 0 here. I don't know if Forlox will do it. We'll see. He does. And then hold the phone call. And then as soon as you get to this dialogue here where he's like, you know, I'm not losing another crappy job, so comes some crazy bitch. Let go of the call, and you can immediately gain control and skip the dialogue. And then you can stay on mission 0, and at the end of this mission, you can take a phone call while they flip and blow up at the end of the mission. So right here, you can then take a phone call during this cutscene. Slight optimization saves you taking it, you know, before body harvest. But then the next segment is exactly as normal, so I skip through, death warp, get a bike, body harvest, exactly as standard. Grab the rifle so you can death warp, drive back, blah blah blah. So one thing you can do here, I didn't actually know until Pardonet told me this, and Forlux also doesn't know it evidently. If you have too much health so where you don't die to this death warp, then play a replay and the fire will spawn, because sometimes the fire won't spawn, as you can see. But instead of having to slowly waste all this time dicking around jumping off a roof, you can just play a replay and the fire will spawn. So Forlux, if you're watching this, keep that in mind. You'll save a lot of time. So now drive to King in Exile. You might be thinking to yourself that you might be able to like dupe King in Exile and stuff to skip some Catalina missions. Rather than this being the same as Any MDvMM. But unfortunately the way Catalina's missions are coded, because they're like a non-linear like multiple choice path thing, they are coded completely differently to how the usual mission chains are. So that doesn't work. Unfortunately, there's no known way to skip any Catalina missions that we know of. Or any duping in Badlands, for that matter. So, this is where you want to go. So on the way to the second busted warp, you go over the bridge. And then on this rock on your left, there is a rifle with 30 bullets. So you just want to head up the hill. Kind of tricky with rain. See how Forlux deals with it. And it's right on the rock here. You want to grab it. And then basically act as though you're not busted warping back. So you head back onto the road. But instead of getting a busted warp, you head straight back, follow the road all the way back into LS. Then you hug the left side and just go northwest through LS onto this road. Follow the road all the way down, and then eventually turn off at Catalina's hideout. Then it's time for Small Town Bank.
Hey, what we got left?
Small Town Bank is, as far as I know, exactly the same as in any percent. You just kill guys. But obviously the only difference being is that you don't go to the ammunition. You just chill and just wait for Catalina to get here. Blah, blah, blah. Very standard. Take the bike. Go the better route. Pick up Catalina. Save her. She yells at you. Then local liquor store. Exactly the same, except this time you have, I think you actually have more ammo in order to do the snipes, which is nice. Great job, Forlux. I actually got this in 6 shots for the first time yesterday during an attempt. Don't think I've ever had that before. Jesus Christ, Forlux, pick up the package, man. Come on. You're better than this. So, then, against all odds, you can actually do on Mission Zero dialogue skips here the same way. But I think Guy mentioned that it's not actually faster, because you have to wait anyway. So I'm interested to see what Forlux does here. Maybe he skips the original?
Give me a break. Here's your break. Your break is you're not. You want to rob a betting shop?
I mean, that seems very standard.
Stupid bitch. Stupid fucking bitch. Now I kill you. Eat my shit.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that he does anything particularly strange. I know Guy was testing dialogue skips.
Okay, I got it.
About fucking time. You're a
But I don't think any of them save time, to my knowledge.
Whatever, let's roll.
Yeah, the cutscene seems the same. Maybe Forlux can comment on if there was something I was missing there, but it didn't look like anything out of the ordinary. So, bribes, blah blah blah, and then also the races are exactly the same, unfortunately. But what I will describe while we kind of skip through these races is that once you get to Are You Going to San Fierro, it's very important that you do not take the Truth's Call. Now, a lot of you, myself included, may think that the Truth's Call actually unlocks the mission because that's what gives you the marker. But that's not true. The mission actually spawns immediately. So if you know where it is, then you can just go and start it. And you need that Truth Call for San Fierro. So make sure you do not take it under any circumstances. If you do answer it and like pick up the phone and you're listening to it, then press F6 to go on Mission 0 and it'll cancel the call as you take it. But yeah, make sure you do not press F to take the call. Very, very important. So, as you can see, Forlux does a standard drive back, but he won't take the phone call. He will cancel it. And then just start the mission. One thing to note as well is that you can cancel phone calls without shooting or trying to enter a vehicle by just pressing your F6 key to go on a Mission 0. Just be careful when doing it near markers, because when you do that, you can accidentally dupe missions that you're not supposed to. But this is all very standard. Exactly the same as any percent. And then you just finish Badlands. So apologies for all the skipping at the end, but Badlands is unfortunately the only section that doesn't have a lot of skips. But in part 2, which will be coming very shortly, I will describe San Fierro and San Fierro and Desert, both of which have insane skips, especially San Fierro, in order to skip pretty much the entire segment. So stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this helped if you're a new runner wanting to get into this category. Any questions, of course, feel free to ask me in the comments or find me on Discord or Twitter or something. All my info is down below. Thank you very much to Forlux for providing this gameplay. It means a lot because my gameplay you would not want to watch, let me tell you. I am awful at this game in comparison. But yeah, stay tuned for part 2, and I'll see you very shortly. Have a great day.